Making the change to a gluten-free diet can be challenging for your child and family. Understandably, many children miss favorite foods and they may feel different from their peers when they are following a gluten-free diet. Parents may experience a wide range of emotions as well, including guilt, frustration, and can feel overwhelmed by all of the aspects of managing the gluten-free diet. Try to discuss the important aspects of the gluten-free diet with your child at their level of understanding. Start educating your child about celiac disease as soon as they are diagnosed. Help them understand what contains gluten and what doesn't. Encourage them to get into the habit of asking if a food is gluten-free if offered by friends or family. If they are old enough to read labels, start showing them the words and symbols to look out for as you were shown in Module 2. If you know anyone else with celiac disease, they may be a good resource to meet with your family to discuss how they manage a gluten-free lifestyle. If you or your child are finding it difficult to cope with the diagnosis or managing celiac disease, contact your medical team for more support. It is not uncommon to need more support, and this is not something you should feel embarrassed about. One challenging aspect of following a gluten-free diet is managing cross-contamination with gluten in the home. Cross-contamination occurs when foods that don't contain gluten come in contact with gluten through another food or cooking process prior to being eaten. It is important for someone with celiac to avoid all potential exposure, even cross-contamination. It is not necessary to have an entirely gluten-free household, though some families do choose to eliminate all gluten from their homes if they feel it is easier for them as a family. Having a gluten-free household may reduce the risk of cross-contamination for your child. However, it may be an unnecessary expense. You may find it helpful to go through your fridge, cupboards, and pantry to see what you already have that is gluten-free. Try to go through each area of your kitchen systematically, taking everything out and wiping out any storage spaces that may have food particles or crumbs. This would include pantry shelves, utensil holders, cooking utensil containers, and fridge drawers. As you put food back on the shelf, check each label so you know what you already have that is gluten-free. You may want to store your gluten-free food separately so they are easier to find in the future. If you have young children who cannot read or babysitters taking care of your children who may not read labels consistently, it may be helpful to have a designated gluten-free section in your kitchen, or use stickers to make the gluten-free foods in your kitchen easier to identify. You and your family are likely to find your own unique way of making sure your kitchen is safe for your child. When cooking, keep everything that contains gluten separate from anything that is gluten-free. For example, if you're making pasta, have 2 separate pots of boiling water with 2 separate spoons to stir each pot. We recommend getting a separate toaster for gluten-free bread since it can be very difficult to clean inside of a toaster, and there is also a lot of risk of cross-contamination with breadcrumbs. We also suggest having separate jars of condiments such as jam, peanut butter, margarine, and other spreads to minimize the risk of cross-contamination with breadcrumbs. Squeeze bottles are less risky, but it is important to discuss with the whole family about not touching the mouth of the squeeze bottle to the food directly. We recommend washing all your kitchenware in between each use with warm water and soap. You do not need to separate pots, pans, plates, cups, or cutlery if they are made out of metal, ceramic, or glass. If you use wooden spoons or cutting boards, check that they do not have any grooves or cracks that cannot be well cleaned. If there is anything you are not certain that can be cleaned well in between each use, we recommend getting a separate one specifically for gluten-free food preparation. If there are appliances that cannot be cleaned with soap and water, such as cast iron frying pans or electric waffle irons and griddles, it is best not to use these gluten-free food items. For barbecues, try to scrub the grill clean as much as possible and use a layer of aluminum foil on the grill to make a physical barrier before preparing gluten-free foods. Eating out with celiac disease is a challenge but can be done safely. It is important for your child and family to continue to do things you enjoy together, including eating out and traveling. The best thing that you can do to reduce the risk is to plan ahead and ask at the restaurant about ingredients, preparations, and potential cross-contamination. If you are going to a sit-down restaurant, they may have a gluten-free menu or icons to identify the gluten-free items on the menu. You may see terms like gluten-friendly or gluten-reduced on a restaurant menu. These are not guaranteed to be gluten-free. In these cases, you should still ask questions about ingredients and cross-contamination. At fast food restaurants, they are legally obligated to have ingredients lists in the restaurant. Some fast food outlets also post their ingredient lists on their website. It is also important to ask about cooking practices at these restaurants, since many can use the same grill or deep fryer for gluten containing as for gluten-free items, leading to a high risk of cross-contamination. You should speak with your child's teacher about celiac disease so they understand the need for gluten-free foods at school. Remind the child about the importance of not sharing food at school with others. If your preschooler or kindergartner is playing with Play-Doh at school, Play-Doh does contain gluten. Gluten is not absorbed through the skin, so your child can continue playing with the Play-Doh as long as they wash their hands thoroughly after each use. However, regular Play-Doh should be avoided as if there is any risk that your child will eat it or if their hands touch their mouths while playing. If you are concerned, you can make or purchase gluten-free Play-Doh to send to your school with your child. It is common to celebrate birthdays and holidays at school with food treats. It would be helpful to prepare a collection of gluten-free treats such as candies, mini chocolate bars, and mini bags of chips to leave with the teacher in case another child brings in food to share with their class that the child cannot eat. This way, your child may not feel excluded from celebrations. Some schools or classrooms may also be open to encouraging non-food items for celebrations, such as pencils, stickers, or a fun activity. If your school has a hot lunch program, ask if there are any gluten-free items on the menu. If not, you may be able to plan ahead and send something similar that is safe for your child to eat on that day. For example, send gluten-free pizza from home if there is a pizza day at school. Be an advocate for your child and ask the school to cater to your child's dietary needs. If your child is taking a cooking class at school, the food studies teacher may be able to make accommodations for the child in class. Your child could bring in a gluten-free flour mix to use in place of wheat flour and possibly have a dedicated workstation. Again, we encourage an open conversation with the teacher to work out the details. If your child will be eating at a school cafeteria, try to help them identify some safe gluten-free options, paying attention to cross-contamination, such as shared deep fryers. Encourage your child to pack lunch from home as much as possible, since this will likely reduce the risk of cross-contamination. Food is a part of many social events and celebrations. Children with celiac disease should be able to participate in these activities. If your child is going to a birthday party, ask what food is being served ahead of time to plan accordingly. You may want to bring a gluten-free treat, such as a gluten-free cupcake or brownie, that they can eat if they cannot have the birthday cake being served at the party. If your child will be eating at someone else's house and you are not sure what they will be eating, send gluten-free food with your child. If your child has a job handling food, have a discussion about safe food handling practices. It is okay for them to be around gluten, so as long as they do not ingest it. It is not known if inhaling gluten can cause intestinal damage or what amount is safe. Overall, it is thought that inhalation should not be a problem. If your child will be helping with farming, wheat, rye, or barley, or wants to work in a gluten-containing bakery or pizzeria, we suggest discussing this with your healthcare provider. Traveling with your child on the gluten-free diet can be successful with some advanced planning. If possible, bring a cooler or lunchbox of gluten-free snacks and meals. Seek out restaurants in the area you are staying beforehand. If you are traveling to a place where you do not speak the language, bring gluten-free restaurant cards that are translated into the local language. You can present them to the server while traveling. You may also find it helpful to look up the words for wheat, barley, rye, and gluten in the foreign language ahead of time and have that information handy. If your child will be traveling with a team or school group, let the organizer know ahead of time of your child's dietary restrictions. It may also be helpful to review options for your meals and snacks with your child so they are comfortable managing the gluten-free diet independently. They may need a list of gluten-free foods from you. You can also provide them with the AHS handout, the Gluten-Free Diet, the Canadian Celiac Association Pocket Dictionary, or the Gluten-Free 24/7 app as reliable sources of information.